Hi, I'm Jan. It's gonna be hard to follow Will's presentation because he's an animator, so he's making everything kind of funny. But I'm from Double Negative. Who knows Double Negative? I guess. Yeah. See. Yeah. So we are calling ourselves DNEG right now because every client calls us DNEG, so we are DNEG right now. Probably one of the biggest VFX companies in the world. About, I guess, 4,000 people are in DNEG all around the world right now. DNEG has 3 divisions. That's film VFX, which is the biggest one probably right now. DNEG TV, which is pretty big in London, and feature animations, which is, I don't know, was established 2.5 years ago. They haven't produced anything publicly yet, but they are working on several animated feature projects. So we'll take a look at the modeling and texture showreel from Andrea, who's over there. So it's gonna be hard for him to listen a bit, but he, as Daniel here, he already has a job in Unim VFX. So that's a successful showreel. That's good news then. So I will start with the title card again. A lot of stuff which Will mentioned applies to this showreel too, like a title stuff on the title card and what the recruiters are taking a look into. So I won't repeat it because it's the same thing. Just in how it works in DNEG, the recruiter is the first one to see your showreel, and the recruiter decides if it's gonna be passed to other guys. It's usually the recruiter watching the showreel. If he finds out, or she usually finds out, that it's appropriate for the position which is opened, it will be sent usually to the head of department or the artist manager of the department, and that is usually sent to few lead or senior artists, which will write and review. So we are not sitting in the same room. We just receive an email, write some feedback, and send it back. And according from what I've heard from recruiters, there's hundreds of showreels coming every month. So that's what Will mentioned, that they are not listening to sound, to music. They just want the best stuff in the front because they will decide in the first few frames if you are worth watching the rest of the showreel. So let's start with this shot, which is pretty nice, which is really impressive shot. It's showing all the aspects. It's showing the model texture, which is the main focus. So I guess you were applying to the asset team. Let's say that's model texture, usually look development. That's everything is all right. You have lighting and comp, which is really beneficial, and the match move, which is really beneficial to show that you are actually versatile in more aspects and more departments, because you kind of understand what's gonna happen with your asset in the future pipeline. So it's beneficial to know a little bit about how the lighting works, about how the rigging works, so you are able to prepare the asset for the other artists, so they don't have to send everything back again for the fixes. So that's what this shot is showing. However, if I will go back, I don't know if you receive the footage or showed your own. Okay, so that makes sense then. But it's more focused and it's more showing the building in the background, which I actually thought that it's 3D because it looks kind of weird. Especially the tower on top looks like there is no textures. So the helicopter is kind of obvious that it's CG, that's for sure, but it's more focused so on the building. So I'm not sure if it's the best footage to choose, or you just could make it shorter and cut it somewhere here or even before, because right now you are literally telling a look at the building. That's a little bit confusing, but it's a great shot to start the showreel. It really shows the entire package. Yeah, so that's this shot. Later on you have a breakdown at the end, could be right after, could be at the end. It really depends. It doesn't really matter. The only thing is that for the VFX showreels and for the specific as an asset showreel, you would write the document like a breakdown of the showreel. Are you doing that, or you just send a showreel? Because sometimes what I was actually, when I review showreels, I actually looking into that, because this is kind of obviously you made it on your own, but sometimes when you are working on a team and putting the stuff you did in a team, it's not enough to tell if you did just the lighting or whatever. It's very useful for the recruiter and the other guys who are reviewing that to know actually what you actually did and how you did that. So when I did my first showreel, I literally put a time code in and said that I did this, that was for this project, and I used Mari for textures, modeled in Maya. It was challenging because it was the detailed hard surface model, and just a few notes, just a few words about the shot actually, or the asset. That helps more probably than showing the breakdown. But yeah, you have a breakdown at the end. You can put it right after the shot. It really doesn't matter. So we will get into. I will jump in there so we have it all together. So I'll turn off the sound. As it is modeling and texturing, I wouldn't show the match move in there. It's kind of obvious that you did that, because otherwise that will be floating around. And it's taking the most part of that breakdown. So I wouldn't put the match move. I would just mention it in that breakdown sheet, let's say, in the document. To show all the passes, why not? It's all right. I wouldn't show all of them, honestly, because it's just taking the time, and it's kind of obvious that they exist. The only note I have for how the shot looks, this is the final one. Overall, it looks really good, I think. Maybe it could be just a little bit more dirty to fit into the background. Depends how long is it in the water, whatever. It looks like it's there for a while. It's a low tide, so probably someday or in a few hours there's going to be high tide, so a little more dirt from the water or whatever. That's just a small note. And from comp wise, I guess the shadow is not matching in the intensity. Let's say that it's a little bit more dark in here, but it's probably hard to see on that projector, but just imagine that. Okay, so as for this one, which is a breakdown of the asset itself, that's the most important part of the reel, that asset. So I would show entire turnaround of the wireframe and even a close-up of the wireframe, because you are applying for the model, and that wireframe is the important part. So if we take a look back a little bit, it's pretty hard to judge if the model is well built or not. I can imagine it looks all right, but I would like to see a little bit more of a close-up to be able to say if you have a edge flow properly around the corners and as it's house surface, it's important. But overall, this looks good. Specular pass doesn't make sense to do that. It's just taking time. Doesn't say anything because you are showing the textures later. It's not necessary to do that. And the shading, yeah, I would show the shading and the lights turning around. That's important. That's great. That's how we do all our look depth and texture slabs in DNEG, that we have a presets to the automatic presets which are submitted through the farm, but at the end we will receive the image which is the model spinning around and the light spinning around. The only thing which I'm missing, which you don't, is the reference. I would put a reference in there because that's what we always do. In VFX, we are copying the reality. Or most of the time, we are copying the reality. It could be really difficult to put it in there because it will always look better, and especially as you are starting as a student, you cannot do it 100%, but even if you put the reference for yourself in there, you will see what's wrong. So I would put the reference. Not in this image, it kind of looks alright. It looks that you did a really good job with the shading and everything. But for the other stuff, we will see it will be more beneficial. So let's go to the other asset, which is this guy. Let's play it first. You see, without the sound, it's too long. So first thing, always start with the entire asset. So you have it the other way. I would show the entire asset spinning and then cut in few details, but you don't need the entire turnaround again. I would do just a full figure, and which is spinning, and bunch of close-ups. 1, 2 is enough. For this one, in the start, I guess you wanted to show the helmet, but the angle is really weird and just not selling the asset. I would move the camera a little bit lower to show his face more than the helmet itself. And that's what I spotted on quite a lot of showreels. There are ease-ins and ease-outs on the animation, which is a little bit annoying when you look at it. You just stare on the few frames, still frames, and then the camera slowly starts to move. Always use the linear keys. In that case, you can spin the model indefinitely, and just that's what we do. We sit in a dailies room, play the animation of the model turning around, and talk about it in 10 minutes. If it's ease-ins and ease-outs, you will see instead of spinning model all around. It's just a little note, but it tends to get a little bit more boring when you look at it, and it doesn't feel professional. It's a small change, but it will make it better. So let's take a look at the breakdown in here. So that's what I would start with this render, and then do the close-ups. If I take a look at the render, that was probably the most difficult one to criticize, because I think that it took a lot of work. It looks really decent, but there are things to make it way better. You can see even on that, it's super dark. It's really dark, even though you use the direct sunlight IBL. I don't know actually if your shading is wrong, or the IBL is used wrong. But I actually don't know what you can see. Not much. Yeah, so his clothes, which is this part, supposed to be black, which are not 100% on this monitor. On your projector, they are 100% black. When I was checking it on at work on the calibrated screen, or either on my laptop, it's always black, which doesn't work. This sphere, even in the shadow, is not black. So something wrong is in the lighting. I know that you are not doing the LDEF or LookDEF or the lighting showreel, but it's not selling your textures. It's not selling your work properly. So I would be careful about the lighting. I'm not sure that it's either your textures are in wrong color space, or the IBL is on, HDRI is wrong color space. Something's wrong somewhere, and it's not helping at all. Wireframe, great. I wouldn't criticize anything. I would just keep in mind that you should be doing the topology as even as possible. So for example, for this stuff, it's unnecessarily dense, but there is nothing really to criticize about the topology or the model. If it's going to be production model, I would give a little bit more subdivisions into the cloth, because it will be probably simulated later on. But that's the only thing. It's a really nice model. You are just not selling it right. Specular pass, I wouldn't do that. That's not giving anything. And especially in this, you don't know if it's a specular or the proper render. You wouldn't tell the difference between this and this. Especially in the projection, I guess it looks the same. So be careful about the lighting and how you sell your models. And once again, I would put the reference in there. If you had one, I would put it in there, because that's what we always do. That our slabs looks like this, but we have 5 images around for build supervisors or VFX supervisors to check if we are really doing what we are supposed to do. This one, that's really nice. That's I would say the exact example how the asset would be sold and built for the VFX. The only thing, I would say this texture looks really nice. However, this one is without any detail. You have really nice detail in here, in the spec, but nothing in here. That's just dragging it a little bit down. That I would love to see some detail, because if you are playing, there will be some scratches and worn outs of the wood. It just doesn't look like a wood, it looks like a plastic. This is awesome. This doesn't work that much, but it's great. It's once again, turn around. I would do 2 or 1 close-ups to sell the best parts. I would also texture this thing next time, because it's just nah. And for the breakdown, once again, no specular pass. Where is it? Sorry. So no specular pass doesn't make sense. This is all good. Once again, that lighting doesn't make any sense, because if you look at here, it's pitch black. Nothing like this happening here. So something is going on. I know that this is black material, let's say, but this is supposed to be brown. This doesn't work. There's something wrong. Even if you don't do it right, just make it a little bit brighter so we can actually see what's happening. To show the UV layout, it's quite beneficial. That's a good call. As for the textures, you can just swap them a little bit more faster, so you won't spend much time just watching the textures. I have a suspicion that your textures are actually in the wrong color space, because this looks like it has a lot of contrast in there, which probably won't be in the real one. So this part is perfect. The rest of it is kind of missing a detail a little bit. And the last thing, this. I know that you probably wanted another asset in the showreel, but it looks like it's not belong there. It's just that there is a ambient occlusion render, and I won't show anything else about that. At least put that IBL again in there, just spin it around, put few details in there, because from this overall it looks good, it looks proper for the background stuff. Wireframe, I cannot tell because I cannot see anything, because it's just too far. If there is something tricky to model, just show it in the close-up. Otherwise, you probably don't need it, and especially for this kind of stuff. The wireframe is not necessary. If it looks okay in the render, it probably looks alright in the wireframe. So I would do the proper lighting like this. Just put it in the same environment. That's the best thing ever. Just put all your assets in the same IBL, in the same HDRI, render them. Just a turnaround of entire asset, cut into few close-ups, like 1, 2, the best areas of the asset. Spin the light around and show the wireframe. That's the most important stuff. Then you can cut into either show the UV layout. That's really nice point to do, So either show your textures in the UV layout or show the textures on the model, like a flat color on the model, but super quickly. Yeah, overall it's really good. You had a job, so successful. Thanks.